Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of College Football Pros. I am Nick from CWE, and he is Drew from CWE, and we are very excited. This will be episode number 4. I'm just really excited to be back. I know we really haven't gotten the hits that we've wanted to, but I think that they'll be coming. If you stay tuned through this video, you will get to hear about a 15 or 20 minute interview with NFL hopeful Anu Solomon, formerly of Baylor and Arizona. Great kid, great attitude, really came out, did well his freshman, sophomore seasons, and hit with injuries the last 2 years. So this isn't a kid who's necessarily overly hopeful and maybe the talent doesn't match. This is someone who's shown that the talent is there and just dealt with some bad situations. So interesting to hear his story. Drew, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, that was a really, really cool interview that we did a couple of days ago. So, humble kid, man. Like, you can tell he's got his priorities straight, and he knows what he needs to do, and he knows the ceiling isn't, top 10 picks. So, at the end of the day, if he can stay healthy and if he can show what he can do, that we've seen what he can do on the football field, I mean, he is an NFL starter, in my opinion.
Yeah, he has all of the tools there, and I think it's just going to be a situation. Kind of reminds me of Taysom Hill to an extent.
Okay.
Just a kid who, not necessarily player type, but just someone who, when you watched him play when healthy, you were like, this kid's got it. But it was just that problem of getting him where he was healthy. Interestingly enough, I was watching, and I don't know why, because, the NFL is basically such a horrible product half the time, but I was watching the playoff game with the Saints, and the announcers just, openly said that Taysom Hill, there's a lot of people in that Saints office that actually look at him like he could be the future quarterback of that team. And to be completely honest with you, I was taken back a little bit because, again, we know what the skill level is there, but he's just been so injury-ridden. But it's something just to pay attention to because we know that, this time of year, draft coming up, Drew Brees, I think he hits his 40-year-old season this year. We know he's not going to be around. Is it a reality they might not take a quarterback, and maybe Taysom Hill might be the future for this team?
Yeah, I mean, with Chase Daniel being the backup down there, I mean, we know he's not that young anymore. So it could be Taysom Hill. It could be, a quarterback in this draft. So I think they're an interesting team to watch in this year's draft for sure.
Yeah, so let's start things off, Drew. National Signing Day last week. And want to give just any takeaways that you have from it?
I mean, the rich get richer. I mean, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia really, really had a impactful recruiting day, and something that I really was interested to see how those new coaches finished. Coaches, down in like Charlie Strong's, the Tom Herman's to an extent at Texas. They have the name brand, but guys from the lower level programs did really well. But I was really excited to see what Georgia did. Kirby Smart, second year, first, true recruiting cycle, as in a 24/7 recruiting cycle. So he landed some big time recruits, and of course Alabama and Ohio State just cleaning up, the 4 and 5 star kids. But as we've seen before, it's not all about the 4 and 5 star kids. It's about the 2 and 3 star kids who can create depth. And, a couple of those kids maybe break out into be, the 4 or 5 star level, where the 4 and 5 star kids fall off the face of the earth because they have all this hype coming in. So, it's always interesting to go back, 2 years, wait 2 years, see where these guys are that were recruited this year, where they fall in 2 years. So it's really interesting. If you go back in the NFL draft, a lot of the top draft picks aren't 4 and 5 star kids. They're 2, 3 star kids who had that chip on their shoulder, who worked harder than anybody at practice to get better and to get where they are. So, it was more of the same. It was a fun day. The early recruiting period kind of took away some of the luster and some of the, the Christmas Day type feel. But overall, it was a good day. And, you go in from Wednesday looking at the, 2018 kids, and now you're looking at the 2019 kids. And there's a lot of big name guys coming out this year, skill guys, they're at the top of a lot of recruiting boards. So recruiting cycle is always fun, but it's always interesting to see in 2 years where they are.
Yeah, and you make a good point, and I think you could agree with me that as the older they get, the easier it becomes to accurately see what type of football player they are. They might come out on fire, 5-star recruit, definitely this kid's going to be the next coming of insert your favorite best quarterback, running back, tight end, linebacker, whatever, and fizzle out, and you see some 2-star kid who just wanted it more.
Right, absolutely.
And then people miss in the draft, and you find out 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line that the guy that you thought was a number 1 pick in the pro level is not as good as someone who was taken, in the middle of the 3rd round and just, fit the scheme better, was willing to hit the weight room, first guy to practice, in all the film sessions, talk to the coach, just wanted it more. I believe that that's where most professional athletes put it together. Hey, you sent me a really interesting article / more or less like a image, and I thought it was apropos to what we had kind of talked about. It's only been 4 episodes, so like 5 weeks since we've been doing this, but it was an image of the college football brand rankings according to recruits, and it's
interesting.
It told us a lot of what we already know, but there was some twist in it. So why don't you go ahead? First thing I would mention is this is just Power 5. Like, they didn't include, which I'm a little bit disappointed about, because I wanted to see, like, so where does Boise State or UCF after this year, or some of those other, fringe programs like Marshall, where do they fit in? But this is just Power 5, so go ahead and tell me what you see in this.
This is interesting because they asked over 240 kids, recruits, rank say you're the number 1 kid in the nation, and you have offers from every school that is in Division 1. So kind of a little bit of make believe here, but it comes down to uniforms, it comes down to coaching styles, it comes down to all the the things that a lot of people don't talk about, the facilities, the nightlife, the restaurants on campus. Again, the uniforms I feel are the biggest. What do you want to call it? Like, the biggest
draw.
Thank you, draw that the kids really want to talk about. But I mean, it was interesting. You have your top 2 in Clemson, Ohio State, which just from tradition, from everything else, that's fine. But a couple of top 10, just real quick. Penn State's 3. That's really interesting to me because they're not a team that's in the top 5 every single year, top 4 every single year. So you look at that, you look at tradition with Paterno and all those guys, and you look at, Happy Valley and what's around it and the community that is around it. And then if you look at Oregon at 5, again, you look at all the uniform combinations that Nike has and does all these cool things with helmets and cleats and swag. So it's really interesting. And then you go, Miami at 7, Oklahoma at 8, Stanford at 9, and then LSU rounds out the top 10. So you have some not traditional powerhouses, meaning every single year, Clemson, Ohio State, USC predominantly will always be up there and talked about being up there. But you go down, Florida's 14, Notre Dame is 15, which was the most intriguing thing to me. Notre Dame being this tradition-rich school, the classic gold helmets, they slapped a sign and they come out of the locker room. So I thought that was the most interesting, recruits, is it Brian Kelly? They're just like, I don't want to play for Brian Kelly. His offensive scheme is very bland, is very dull. So I mean, it's interesting. It really is. If you look at some of these teams on here, UCLA being 12, that's exactly. And then does that shoot through the roof because of him? And they're with USC being at 5. So is this that LA lifestyle?
Yeah, there's definitely the possibility that it is. 2 that you didn't mention that kind of really shook me were 17, Michigan. They've just lost so much ground altogether, considering you've got Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State, and Wisconsin all in the Big Ten recruiting ahead of them. And it's not necessarily recruiting, but people telling us that we'd rather just play for 4 other teams in Michigan. The big shocker to me, and we talked about it. We talked about it the first episode. I went on record and said I don't think Alabama can stay where it's at, like I think Clemson, Ohio State can, like Georgia can, because I don't think recruits want to go to a system where they're going to have to wait so long. Right. Alabama is sitting at 19, right ahead at Texas at 20. That's another higher end legacy program. I don't know if you want to call them, they're complementary program, Oklahoma, sitting at 8. 20 at Texas is not exactly the affirmation I'd want if I was Tom Herman. I would want to feel like I'm trending at least in the top dozen. But really, those are some bad looks. Everybody in that second column, maybe not like Wisconsin, Nebraska, Auburn, things like that. That's where they should be. But you see Florida, Notre Dame, Michigan, Alabama, Texas, and you're like, okay, they're not doing something right. And ESPN just released an article yesterday, today, doesn't really matter when, talking about how Alabama's putting $2 million into 2 floors in a building just for recruiting. So I think they've clearly gotten the picture that they need to do more to make people. It's no longer Alabama football being the drawing point, because they see that Clemson, Ohio, they see that other teams are going to be able to contend with Alabama that probably have better facilities, probably have better education, probably have better nightlife, etc., etc., and that draw is now they want more out of the college experience than just coming and playing football at Alabama.
Yeah, I think it goes to, too, you go to Alabama, you go there to win, you go there to work hard. But I can go to Clemson or Ohio State or Georgia and work just as hard but have fun doing it. Where I don't think recruits look at Alabama and go, oh, Nick Saban is fun to hang out with. Where you look at Urban Meyer, Dabo Swinney, Kirby Smart, Chip Kelly, Mark Richt, Lincoln Riley, all these, according to this ranking, all these top teams, and they go, okay, we can have fun with those guys. We can joke around with these coaches and have fun. Or you look at a Saban and you go, it's strictly business. And hey, it works. They win championships. You can't argue that. But at the same time, you're right. You look at this and they're ranked 19th according to recruits. So that it's starting to, the tearaway starting to happen where it's like, well, we can go somewhere else and have fun at night and have fun hanging out in the locker room because, we have Oklahoma just put in a new multi-million-dollar locker room. This is with LED boards and, all these TVs and stuff. So it's no longer about the football on the field. And you're absolutely right about that.
It's everything else. And that's really where we've come to as a society.
Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Bright lights are going to attract kids more than the potential of winning a championship. And it's not to say that those kids still don't want to win, but if you're giving them roughly the same chance in a better atmosphere, and it could just be an aesthetically better atmosphere, that's all it has to be. And that's how we've kind of gravitated as a society. So Alabama's going to have to keep up with the Joneses, put in the things that they're going to have to put in to make sure that people still keep coming there, because everything is cyclical. Ohio State and Clemson were not great attractors of football talent all of the time.
Right. No, of course not.
It goes in phases, and right. Sure, a phase could be 20 years, 50 years, whatever, however many years. But you have to make sure that you're keeping up with what the demand is out there in the market. It's just like any other business. There's supply and demand, and you're going to get the supply as long as you're in demand. But as long as when you start to go out of demand, it becomes more difficult to attract that top talent. And eventually, 2-3 years down the road of poor recruiting cycles or not as good recruiting cycles, because you know as well as I do, the margin at the top is so thin between these teams.
Yeah.
That all it takes is getting, a few lesser ceiling guys than the other one, and your year could be completely shot. So
absolutely.
Yeah, let's move on. Another article you sent me. We've got. Let me pull it up here.
This is just the ludicrousness of assistant coaches being paid.
Yeah, Brent Venable making $2 million now as the defensive coordinator for Clemson. More power to him. I mean, he's got arguably, they somehow managed to convince 3 potential first-round talents to come back to school for 2018. In my opinion, you have to be looking at Clemson. I hate playing the early favorite card, but they have to kind of start to look like the early favorite when you consider what they're returning, how they're recruiting, and now that they're bringing back such a tremendous defense. But giving an assistant coach $2 million is setting some sort of precedent.
Yeah, and I think that's where we come to. There's a list. It's public. I don't know how up to date it is, but I saw it a couple years ago that the highest paid coaches, and it had their contracts broken down as to golf memberships and, private flights for recruiting and everything. But when you look at this guy and his base salary is $245,000, and then supplemental income for bonuses or for stuff, random stuff through incentives is 1.75 million, which, I mean, everybody believes that he'll hit every single one of those incentives. So you're looking at a guy making $2 million to coach defense. Their defense was one of the best, in college football. You can't argue that. He's a great coach. He's a great recruiter. But at the same time, does an assistant coach deserve $2 million when he's not the one whose job is on the line? And now without me saying that, hold on, because I get it. If his defense starts, tanking and they start losing games, sure, he could get fired. However, it falls on the head coach first. So the head coach has to make the decision to fire his defensive coordinator, his offensive coordinator. And a lot of times these guys are friends, they're relatives, they're family members. So, it falls on the head coach first. And you're looking at a situation where he's making $2 million, and some head coaches in, Power 5 conferences aren't making $1 million a year. So, where's the balance and talk about amateurism? And these guys, you can't pay college athletes, but you can pay an assistant coach $2 million. It's a weird precedent to set, man.
It definitely is. And you look and you say things like, well, there are head coaches that aren't making $1 million, but then you start thinking about, well, should the head coach of Kansas make $1 million, considering the dreck that's been put out there, the current coaching situation at Baylor? Do they deserve $1 million? Lord have mercy, they're barely playing football out there. So I mean, it goes both ways, but it does set a dangerous precedent. It may actually put Dabo Swinney in a position where his job is like less on the line, and I don't think there's any level of concern with his job.
No,
he's got one of the most secure jobs in college football.
Right.
But if stuff starts to go poorly on the defense, now that they have a huge incentive to move on because they're dumping a tremendous contract that's out there. And Dabo Swinney, he might get the Brian Kelly treatment like he gets at Notre Dame. Brian Kelly, it's always everyone else's fault. He never has to answer to anything that goes wrong. Speaking of head coaches, New Mexico's head coach appealing his 30-day suspension. I read the list of the things that he was suspended for, and I'm just sitting there saying to myself, just eat it.
Yeah, just
eat
suck
30
it
days.
up.
That's it.
It's not that serious.
I mean, it's the stuff that they were doing that he was. It wasn't him. I don't necessarily think so much as like what the players were doing, and he has no control over them.
And it's how he, and it says that how he responded to those allegations,
right?
And it kind of sounds like he was trying to do the right thing and go to people above him. I didn't read the whole report. However, it does seem like, dude, just take your 30-day suspension, come back, go to a golf course for a couple days, come back, and then move on. But he's fighting it, and I feel like if they keep digging into this, they might find things that they may not want to find, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, they might end up with an Ole Miss situation on their hands.
Absolutely.
Who knows what kind of stuff goes on there. Couple of guys making some transfer news, and we'll work hard to try to get you to this Anu Solomon interview. C.J. Fuller, probably, it's two running backs. I don't know that you could say, the only reason I would say one is kind of a bigger deal than the other is just because of the program that he's leaving. And I don't think either one of these guys have destinations yet, but C.J. Fuller announced he was going to transfer from Clemson. Big deal. Their backfield outside of Wayne Gallman, because he moved on to the NFL, was definitely very hard to read for the most part until Travis Etienne, I believe is his name.
Yeah, how I pronounce it. Yeah,
took over. I think that Fuller is going to be able to go somewhere. I don't know if he's going to have to sit out. I don't know what his status is academically. If he's
a redshirt junior.
Okay, so he'll have to sit out a year.
He'll have to sit out, yeah. Unless he's already graduating, but I don't think he is yet. Right.
I think that it would be an interesting move for him. I think he's talented enough to go to another, even Power 5 program and find somewhere to start. Talent-wise, though, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying. It says he will graduate this spring, so he won't have to sit out.
Okay, so he'll be a transfer that's not technically a graduate transfer.
Yeah, I don't know how
he isn't a graduate transfer right now, but he
will.
Regardless, he won't have to.
He won't have to sit out now.
Madre London, potentially more talented.
This one shocks me.
But you know as well as I do, and that's L.J. Scott announced that he was going to return for his senior season. But Michigan State has just been for years. I mean, Jeremy Langford, the last running back I can remember that really got like number one back treatment there. But it's been
it's always been committee.
two or more backs.
Yeah.
Basically each and every week. So I don't know. You kind of wonder. There's so many things that could possibly happen. He might not like the coach. He might not like his teammates.
Yeah.
He might feel threatened that L.J. Scott is viewed as the one, and somebody coming in might jump him on the depth charts. There's a lot of things, but I think he was talented.
Yeah, I think he was too. I mean, he showed that he can carry the load on numerous games when LJ had bad games, and D'Antonio would just run with Mondre London a couple years ago. So he's proven that he could do it. So I think he'll be a good addition to a team, a lower level team. I could see him going like, CUSA or MAC or something like that, and really being the bell cow of a team.
And that oftentimes I think that's just the right strategy to do.
I agree.
I mean, it makes so much sense. You improve everything about your situation as long as you go out and play better. If you look at a guy like Jeff Driscoll at Florida, wasn't really able to get the job done at Florida. He went to La Tech, and that team with Carlos Henderson, Trent Taylor, Kenneth Dixon, like that team was phenomenal. I mean, that was like the best team. That was like my favorite group of 5 team to watch that year. And I think that even when Dixon left, I think they still had 1 year where it was Henderson and Trent Taylor. So it's in his best interest probably if he knows the situation better than either one of us do. No matter how much we read, we're not going to know the real reasons why. Last bit of things to talk about. Again, slow news weeks in February. We're not going to really be getting hit until at least the middle of March and probably beyond that. But it looks like Iowa State quarterback Kyle Kempf getting a 6th year of eligibility, which is good. I liked what I saw out of him. He's going to be losing a target in Alan Lazard, who really might not have been Iowa State's top ball hog last year anyway.
As we thought he would be, yeah.
I really thought that we were going to see a lot of progression from Alan Lazard just in terms of what his share of the action was, and it just did not seem that way at all, which hurt his draft stock, a number of different things, but interesting situation to watch.
Yeah, I'm happy for these guys at Iowa State. I mean, I think he's a calming member of this team that he's going to come in and just I did it, I've done this before, let's go out there and win some more games. And Iowa State showed last season that they can really be a thorn in a lot of these Big 12 team sides. So it'll be interesting to see how they come in to this season, and can they compete for maybe not a Big 12 title, but can they compete for the top echelon of that bowl pecking order in the Big 12?
I thought he was the best quarterback that they've had during the last 5 years. Joel Lanning ended up turning to linebacker full time just because of how good Kemp was able to play. They've got David Montgomery, who's really a terrific running back. I mean, that's putting it lightly. He's one of the best in the country. So it's going to be interesting. We saw improvements on defense. The aforementioned Lanning will be moving on. He's a top 10 linebacker in this year's draft, believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what that team can do. That pretty much covers it. I think we could go to the Anu Solomon interview now.
Yeah, I think, guys, this was a really cool interview to do. It was really fun to talk to him, and a really humble guy, like I said before. So, stay tuned for more cool things like this. And we've got some other things that we're working on, so stay tuned for some fun and exciting times ahead.
All right, here we are with Anu. All right, we are excited to have on the podcast today former Arizona and Baylor quarterback Anu Solomon. How are we doing today?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
Well, to be completely honest with you, I just shoveled a driveway full of 7 inches of snow. I'm trying to stay in playing shape. I'm 6'5", 285 pounds, never played football a day in my life. But with the XFL coming out, Drew and I used to run a professional wrestling company. A lot of our talent is now in the WWE. I'm hoping they could link me up. Maybe I could be, a defensive player or just a really big distraction on the field. But that's about it.
Well, that sounds nice. I'm here in beautiful Arizona, clear skies, sunny day, 77 degrees. You guys should come out here.
You know what? Actually, that's a funny story. That my cousin actually lives in Phoenix, Arizona, and she said numerous times in the past couple of days when I'm talking to her, "Hey, you guys should come out here. It's like 80-degree weather." I'm like, you know what? I got 10 feet of snow over in Ohio, so thanks.
It's suns out, guns out weather.
Yeah, it's crazy, but yeah, man. Thanks again for coming on with us. But with today being National Signing Day when we're recording this. Can you take us back to your signing day and when you decided to go to Arizona? Like, what was that process like, and any kind of crazy emotions you were feeling?
It was a bit overwhelming. You just have that weight of just stress and constantly being asked questions from everyone, friends, family members, coaches, constantly asking you, are you going to sign with us? Are you going to be with us? Hey, kiddo, like, can't wait for you to get here. And to choose one school among all the other schools that you have that have offered you, it's such a blessing. Just to have that opportunity to play a D1 school, to not just play football but also take advantage of the education. I'm just lucky and blessed that Coach Rich Rodriguez and his coaching staff believed in me, and Coach Matt Rule and his coaching staff also believing in me this past year. It really is a blessing just to accept and get that weight off your shoulders.
At what point did you decide to start playing football? Were you a younger person when you started playing, or was it something you developed in your teen years?
Just kind of came out, back in Hawaii, because I was born and raised in Hawaii for 10 years. Football was the only thing. Football was the main sport, and then you have your basketball and baseball. And my parents did a great job just not putting me through one sport. They influenced me to play all three sports, and I loved all three, and it ultimately came down to football coming in my junior year of high school.
Awesome. When did you decide that this is what you wanted to do? Was it like a simultaneous thing? Like once you got on the football field, you knew that's what you wanted to do?
Honestly, I really wanted to be in the NBA. I love basketball, and I still do love basketball. Occasionally I'll go around, shoot some hoops, thinking that I'm Michael Jordan or Steph Curry or Kobe Bryant. And, it's just, one of those things that you just can't give up. And I want to say that it ultimately came down to my junior year of high school, where where I sat down with my parents, and we thought about it, and football was the main sport that I was going to work on and to get better on.
Yeah, I'm a big NBA fan too over here. It's basically, I'm happy that the seasons are separated, let's put it that way, because once the NBA starts, like, I go full steam into that. I have a number of bets with people, non-monetary, just like told people. I've no doubt in my mind that the finals this year will not be Cleveland and Golden State. I said that before the Irving trade. I stand by it. I really think that the East, the Cavs have beaten themselves. LeBron can turn it on at any time and take the team to title land, but it's not looking good, and I think that there's some weaknesses that are exploitable on the Warriors that teams like the Rockets with Clint Capella could definitely give them a tough time. I'm not a believer in Zaza Pachulia. If he can't injure somebody, then he really has not much of a use in that scheme, and a big man coming to play in Golden State against them is something that they've shown weaknesses against. But this isn't a basketball podcast, folks. We'll stick to college football. Drew, do you have anything for him? All right, Drew seems to be incommunicado at the moment. I want to go to your first year at Arizona. Now, college football daily fantasy, I'm sure at this point you've heard of FanDuel and DraftKings and things like that. Well, 2014, 2015 was really when college football daily fantasy started to come into full form. Drew and I had this podcast going then. We were doing a lot of college football DFS contests. I will never forget your first game UNLV, right? I'm getting that right?
Right. UNLV.
Relatively unknown. I mean, you're known on the recruiting trail and to people in Arizona as this kid's going to be the guy who takes over the reins. I took a flyer on you in that game because you were minimum price. Because let's face it, you weren't Marcus Mariota. The world didn't have an idea of what your skill set was. And quite frankly, in Austin, you became near and dear to my heart because you had a terrific game. Barely anybody played you. Won me money. Anytime anybody wins me money, it definitely endears them to me. So your first year, off to a great start. You really were. How did that do for you, the validation, building your confidence moving forward?
I've built a lot of confidence, especially, just walking in the locker room. You have your teammates trusting you in whatever you do. You have your coaches giving you the ability to check in and out of plays. That builds a lot of confidence, when you have that, when you establish that trust within the people in the facility, and especially having the fans behind your back and everyone hyping you up. It builds a lot of confidence. For me, it was all of those factors.
Yeah, Arizona finished that year very positively. If I'm not mistaken, 2 losses in the regular season. Finished a tough Fiesta Bowl game against Boise State, who's consistently just such a tough, group of 5 program. A lot of attention, really. Finished 10th ranked in the country. That's, a solid first year, and that's probably putting it mildly. So expectations running high to come into 2015. What helped you deal with the pressure? Because that's a lot of pressure to put on a young guy. It's a lot of pressure to put on someone at any age, but let alone when you're in your late teens, early 20s.
It is. It is a lot of pressure because you have so many doubters, so many supporters. And now, in this day and age, social media comes into play. You're all about yourself. You're all about looking on, what are people saying? The curiosity just kills it. When you have that much pressure, it kind of you have to respond in 2 ways. Either you fold or either you respond by just being the guy that got you there, winning games. My family, they did a great job of putting me in pressure when I was a young kid, putting me in different age groups when I was playing in competitive sports. I had a lot of pressure growing up, so it's kind of getting used to it. I know it's a bigger stage. I know it's a lot, but when you get a grasp of it, it's easy to contain.
When you talk about the setbacks and everything that you went through, how does when you get injured and when you're at a big time environment in a big time not only game but season in general, like how does that make you a better quarterback and a better player? Maybe possibly watching it from the sidelines, even when you can be out there helping your team. What is that mindset like?
It's supporting your teammates and supporting the guy that's filling into your spot. It is it's a humbling experience, and you get to watch it from the perspective that you once were. Redshirting, it made me open my eyes. It made me gather so many information and so many abilities to get better mentally as a football player, because there are a lot of factors and there are a lot of ways mentally you can get better. And sitting back and watching DJ Denker, Jesse Scroggins, Matt Scott, just sitting back there on the sidelines, just watching them play, you actually get to see see the game in a different way. And then once you're in there in the game and you have the abilities to make the plays, then everything just comes natural.
I think it definitely says a lot about the character of a person, how they respond when they get injured, and we've seen both sides of the equation. We've seen guys who get injured, get replaced, and don't handle it well, and what does that say to the scouting community and people who want to give you millions of dollars later on if you can't handle the adversity when it comes to you? Another bit of adversity is, I mean, like we talked about this 10-win season, or the 10-win season, 10th ranked team. 2015, not exactly a dream scenario, dealt with a little bit of getting banged up here and there. Program takes a step back. Statistically, you do better. Your statistics are actually, better, but the team dynamic kind of shifts backward. Do you take, even though we know that football is such a team contributed sport and all factors have to be hitting for a team to win in a competitive conference, do you still take those L's personally, like you could have done more?
Of course. Whenever you lose a game, especially if you're such a tough competitor, I don't know about you, but I hate losing. I've lost. I want to say I have lost 4 games in a span of 4 years in my high school years. Going into Pop Warner, we've never lost more than 2 games, so I've always been on a team that, we won a lot. So I mean, it is tough. But you just gotta respond from it. You have to learn from it, and that's where you get better as not only as a team but as a player, as an individual. How can you respond with those losses? Do you take a step back, or do you get back to work and forget about it? Because it's a long season. You play multiple games, and in this game you must have short-term memory.
All right, yeah, that's I couldn't really imagine a better response for that, and more power to you. I agree. I do not like losing. I can't play cards. I can't play anything without being competitive. My wife will not play board games with me because there's just no sitting down and trying to have fun. Everything in my life is about getting the W.
I feel your pain. I have a girlfriend, and we play a lot of competitive games, and I don't care if you're a little girl or if you're my girlfriend or if you're my grandma. I'm gonna win the game.
That's it. You're a man after my own heart. I will absolutely put a little kid down playing games. I don't care if it's a Guess Who. It doesn't matter if it's Chutes and Ladders. I am winning. I do not care if you're going to run into the other room crying. It is about me getting my win. So, speaking of a lot of change happened. You decide to do the graduate transfer 2017. You go to Baylor. And that's a program that hasn't exactly been in the best shape because of numerous things that we don't really desire to get into at this point in time. But you're given a pretty solid opportunity. 2016, kind of injury plagued for you. Didn't really get to go out there and show your fullness. You missed the opportunity with the 2016 or the 2017 draft class. Like, I feel somewhat ignorant saying things like this because it's not meant to be a disrespect to those players who got drafted, but the 2017 class of quarterbacks in comparison to the 2018, this class coming up is definitely a more densely populated group of talent, whereas in 2017 the top tier was kind of just a few players, whereas this year it's really, really, really stacked. So you kind of lose the opportunity to come out in 2017 because of the injuries. You want to give yourself another chance in 2017 with Baylor, and you get concussed there. You know that it's going to impact how everybody views you in terms of your health. Obviously, 2 years in a row, even if the conditions are separate, people still kind of hone in on that he's an injured player, and that's not a tag that's easy to live with. How are you assessing all this? You're essentially going out in your in this year, and this is the audition for the biggest job opportunity of your life, right? You don't get another chance if it doesn't work out to go out there next year and compete. It's all about this year. So how do you respond mentally to getting the concussions and having it lag on for the entire season and not really getting to show everyone the quality that that you have?
Just continue to do what I do best. I like to work out. I like to get better mentally. I'm training with a good group of people out here in Arizona, and I'm training with a good group of people in California. So what we're doing now is just, making sure that I'm healthy. I'm 100% healthy. And, I mean, there are going to be some injuries. There are injuries in football, like there's injuries in life. So, I mean, it's really goes back to doing what you do and working out and getting back to your top shape. And that's what I'm currently doing right now.
Well, and I think it's important at this point to kind of distinguish here that a lot of people somehow think that you medically retired, whereas it was actually a medical withdrawal. Your symptoms of your concussion actually prohibited you from being able to go to your classes, and it was essentially you had to withdraw completely from the school. That's correct?
That's correct.
So
I think people don't understand the misconception of medically retired and medically withdrawing from a school. Medically retired means whatever injury you have in that sport will take you out of that sport, and you're done with the sport for good. Whereas medically withdraw is you basically withdraw from school because your injuries took you out from school. I'm actually a graduate student, so graduate school was more strict on their rules and guidelines. Where being an undergrad, you have some freedom of fighting that. So I was a different story. I missed a certain amount of days of classes, whereas where it took me out of school, and I didn't want that because that's just another year I have to go through that class and pursue on my master degree, and that would take longer to get. So I wanted to, but then we came up with a plan where I medically withdraw from school and really get back to being Anu Solomon.
Listen, I understand. I've got a master's degree, and I was working a 60 to 80-hour a week job that I was blessed to have after my bachelor's degree, and there's no excuses. You don't get to send an email to your professor and say, hey, I can't make it to class tonight because I have to work. Well, that's the expectation. People who are in master's degree programs, a lot of them, at least at the university I went to, were not people who were just going there straight after their bachelor's degree. A lot of these people were coming back and had full-time jobs, and the expectation is responsibility. You know what you're getting into when you sign up for a graduate program, so there is not any either the margin for error there is much, much thinner. Drew is not back, so all right. We're gonna wrap up here. What does a team get with Anu Solomon?
You get a guy who understands the game, who's willing to take in the knowledge, take in. I don't know everything. I do want the ability to learn more than I actually do know. I just love football. Ball is everything that I do, everything that I love, and I actually do enjoy it.
Is there a certain player or team you'd love to get a chance to play with?
I'm not too picky. At this point, I know where I'm at in the draft. All I want and need is an opportunity. Opportunity to show a team that I could be a good player. I could be a player that is disciplined, that knows respond in certain situations. But with all that being said, I would love to sit back and learn behind Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, you name it, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan. I would love to just not back them up, but just like sit back and learn, take what they have and take what they know, in the game of football. I mean, there are many quarterbacks I would love to play with, to learn from. You know, if I can put them all in one room, I would. You know, if I can just put Peyton Manning or John Gruden in a room, I would.
Well, the fortunate thing for you, and it's not like I have any inside intelligence other than the things that I see, but it does appear that, you know, everybody's there to help. You know, nobody wants to prohibit someone from making advances. And it's a sport, but it's a business, right? People understand that they're there.
Right.
It's probably going to be for a limited time. You see guys all the time. Peyton Manning, you mentioned, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Argument could be made, maybe the best, you know, whatever. I don't like to get into those discussions, but can't really look at his last year of football in which he won a Super Bowl and say that that was his best year. So even the best go downhill. Really, thank you for coming on. It's been awesome to kind of just talk with you. Just to close up, tell the NFL universe and every team out there why they should take a chance with you this year.
You know, I'm more of a shower than a teller, but to every NFL team waiting to pass up my name or see my name on the board, whatever it takes, I'll do whatever it takes to be that teammate who is supportive, hardworking, and dedicated to everything that we do. And that's it.
I don't think you can really ask for much more than that. We really thank you for joining us today.